What's up, guys? Have you ever wondered what's the smallest and what's the tallest comic book ever made? Well, if you're curious like I was, stay tuned because I'm going to show you. Alright, what's up, guys? So, whoever's watching, I'm pretty sure that you're pretty curious about what's the smallest and what's the tallest comic book ever made. So, I have that collection here today. I was sitting down one day and I was like, man, I wonder what's the smallest and the biggest comic book that they ever had. And I want to own those. So, I was just curious, so I went and did a lot of searching on the internet one day. I found the world's smallest, which is made by Marvel, and I found the biggest book that I'm going to show you today. So I'm going to show you from the smallest all the way to the biggest comic book. So first off, I have here is these are mini comics that came out in 1966. That's Nick Fury one right there. There's supposedly like 10 million of those made that were printed, and they were given out in gumball machines, and they were given away to the MMMS. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is, but the MMMS is the Merry Marching Marvel Society. That was, I think, Stan Lee's thing, and he first reported these in his Marvel bullpen in the back of the Marvel comic books, saying, hey, that they were going to be making these things and handing them out. This is considered by Guinness World Records as the smallest actual comic book. They came in, I think, six colors. So they came in blue, green, red, orange, yellow, and pale green. So I have a few of them here. There's a Nick Fury green one right there, like I showed you. There's a red one right there. And here's a Thor yellow one. I don't know if you guys see that. Thor yellow one. And we got little Kip. They also have like Millie the model and stuff like that. The most sought after one is the Superman one, is the Spider-Man one. But the reason why I said Superman was because in the back of the Spider-Man one, there's a little cameo, supposedly, of some flying cape superhero. And these came out right before the Superman, Spider-Man Treasury Edition team-up, right? And there's sort of like a little cameo in the back, and they say that that's Superman. I'm not sure how true that is, but they say it is. These books came out in 1966. I don't know if I told you 1966. But they stopped printing them, I think, in 1969. It was the last time they printed them. They distributed them, like I said, again, through the MMMS, through gumball machines, and they were also sold as cake decorations also, just in case you guys didn't know that. But they sold them in packs of like 5 or something like that and put them in cake decorations. So comparing that comic book to like a regular size comic book right here, it's vastly different in size, way smaller. So like I said, that's why the Guinness Book of World Records considers this the world's smallest actual comic book. I would show you guys the insides, but there's like a glue on the sides of it right there, the red glue, and it breaks very easily. So I don't want to actually open these up and show you guys, but they're actually pretty cool. It's all black and white. It's like a really quick little story that's in there. They have little words on there, but like I said, I don't want to open up and show you guys because I don't want to mess up the book. Alright, next up here, that's the world's smallest. Now I'm going to get the world's tallest comic book. So this is a regular size comic book. It measures about 10 inches by 7 inches is the average size comic book. So there you got. So what do you guys think is the biggest comic book? Any guesses? Any guesses? Well, I have it here for you today. So this is a Treasury comic book. Alright? Treasury comic book. These are made between 1974 and 1981. They first started off with Spider-Man stories, and they measure 14 inches by like 10 inches. Right? 14 by 10. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this. This is a pretty big book. Really colorful on the inside. It's made with newspaper print. But like I said, most of you have probably seen this. Compared to a regular comic book, it's about twice the size of a regular comic book. About 2.5 times the size of a regular comic book. So there's a size comparison right there. So like I said, it's 10 by 14. They started making these in 1974 to 1981. There's many of them. DC even made some of these. They also made the crossover ones. One of the famous ones is the Superman Spider-Man one, and the DC one is probably the most famous one. Is probably the Muhammad Ali versus Superman one that they had made. So like I said, 10 to 14 inches. So this was considered probably the world's biggest comic book until this one came out. So like I said, this one came out in 74. The other one measures, dang, I forgot what size, but I'll let you know right now. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But let me know if you know what the biggest one is before this video ends. Alright, so next up, there's an even bigger book than the Treasury Edition. So next up I have right here is Wham-O Comics #1. This is a very, very, very big book. I forgot what year it was printed. Let me see. Hold on, guys. Give me a second. I thought I had it written down, but made in 1967. All right, 1967. So this actually came out before the Treasury editions, because Treasury came out 74 to 81. So this is 1967. So this would have been the world's biggest comic book. Wham-O was supposed to make a majority of these books, but they only made just this one. I read that they lost money when they were making these, and so they only distributed just the first one because they had planned on making like 4 or 5 of them or something like that. But like I said, they ended up not doing it. This one measures 14 by 21 inches high. It's also printed on newspaper print, just like the other ones. If you ever decide to get one of these, they do have some on eBay right now. I got this one for relatively cheap. They're not very well taken care of because they're so big and they're hard to handle. So, of course, a lot of kids that got these just pretty much destroyed them. They do have staples on here, so if you find one that has staples on the outside, they all do have staples, so don't think that somebody just stapled it on their own. They were actually made like this to hold them together. They're stapled on the outside, plus there's a couple staples on the inside to hold the pages together. But this was made by Wham-O, the company that makes the toys. Like I said, 14 and 21, made in 1967. This would have been the world's largest comic book. It's really cool, but they have different stories in here. Stories of superheroes, just action, sci-fi, and stuff like that. I'll be posting a little commercial for it. That way you guys can kind of see what's inside.
It's monstrous. Wham-O brings you the world's biggest comic book. Loads of comic books all in one gigantic book. Giant page after page, crammed with hours of new adventures. Loads of exciting stories of new superheroes. Missions of daring and danger. More and more new stories of super battles. Super combat in suspense-filled comic after comic. Never before have so many comics been in one book. There's page after page of new science fiction. Strange tales of weird super monsters in terrifying outer space. Hundreds of new characters, hours of fun and laughter with crazy mixed-up clowns and their goofy adventures. Stories of mystery, shock, suspense, and surprise. It's new, it's wild, it's different. You've never seen a comic book like it. Over 1,500 action-packed panels crammed into one giant comic book that's bigger than big. It's monstrous. Under $1 wherever toys are sold. More fun from Wham-O.
Alright, last but not least, guys, now I do have the world's biggest comic book for you guys, alright? This one, it was a limited, very, very limited print run, and it was made for a rock band. Does anybody know what the rock band was? Give you a couple seconds to guess. Well, it was made for Kiss, alright? So this is the Kiss 4K, this is the Destroyer edition. They also have regular size books compared to this one. It came out in 2007, but not a lot of people know about these. I mean, they weren't highly distributed. Like I said, there's only 300 of them, and they went to certain people, and so some people got a hold of them. So I'm going to show you guys that now. Right here, this is the Kiss 4K Destroyer Edition. This one measures 20 by 30 inches. So you see how big compared to me, how big it is. But this is the Oh, excuse me, hold on a second. So compared to like the Treasury Edition, look at how small it makes that Treasury Edition look. And then compared to the Wham-O, it's still way bigger than the Wham-O. And if you compare it to a regular size book, look at how it is a mammoth compared to the freaking regular size comic book. So like I said, this one's 20 by 30 inches. There's only 300 of these made. Most of these you find are not in the best condition because they're so big and they're hard to handle, that people have destroyed these or they've gotten dented, bumped around, and I don't have a press big enough to press one of these big ass books. Otherwise I would press this book because there's like bumps on the back. You see that beautiful artwork on the back too? Really cool. See that right there? The Kiss guys right there. Gene Simmons and all them. Look at the front. Look how cool that is. Really cool book. Gigantic book. But this is the biggest one. So there's also another print run of this. It is the black and white variant. I guess you would call it a sketch variant. And I have that also. Right here. This one wasn't very well taken care of either because, again, it's so gigantic. But this is the black and white. There's only 150 of these. So there's not very many, so not a lot of people have these collections. This one was very hard to find. This one was not easy to find at all. I found one seller online that actually had this one. So I have one out of the 150. Like I said, these are very hard to find. You can find some of the color ones, the 300 ones on eBay. There's a few of them on there. They generally sell about $60 to $100. But this black and white one, I looked for it for a while. I was only able to find one. Didn't pay too much for it, but I mean it wasn't a $30 comic book. I'll just put it that way. But this is limited to 150, black and white, the sketch one. Again, same on the back. Really cool artwork on the back. But that right there, ladies and gentlemen, those are the smallest to tallest comic books that you can find. And I have them in my collection. My boy Gino Benino has told me that I find some really awkward off-the-wall stuff. That is another part of my collection that is weird and awkward, but I'm glad to have those books because they're different. They're not what everybody else is showing off. And I just love them. I just love any comic books, whatever size they are. So if they come out with a bigger one than this, I'm going to try to find a bigger one than this. But I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody, all the comments and everything you guys put. I hope you enjoyed that. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe and like if you're new to my channel, so that way you can get all my notifications. Hit that bell. That way you'll know when my new videos come out. And I appreciate you guys being there. I also want to give a shout out to thetaintmeat.com for the info on the mini comics. And a shout out to Kleefeld on comics info for the Wham-O comic. I appreciate you guys watching again. Thank you very much. Peace.